All right, welcome back to the YFB Outdoors YouTube channel. Today we're gonna have a special guest on the podcast. Little brother Nolan is me joining us and talking about his 2024 hunting season. Say hi,
What's up,
Nolan.
guy?
All right, so first topic of today's podcast, Nolan wants to talk about his impressive gun season that he had.
Yeah, so um the day well, actually previous backstory. That Friday night going into the youth gun season, we were out bow hunting and we had seen a really nice buck. And so we went hunting to where he saw him go into the woods. And so we sat there Saturday. I don't think we saw anything. If it was, not much really. And then Saturday night we didn't sit there, I don't think again. I think we sat in a different spot. Saw maybe a couple deer. And then Sunday morning, I don't know if we went out because we had church. And then so Sunday night, I don't know, I just had a feeling, I was gonna shoot something. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And so, we're sitting out there. It's nice, but it's a little cold, but still good. And yeah, so I was just sitting there and we saw after a while we saw a little 6 pointer come in, and it was a nice buck, but it was too small since I already shot bigger ones. So yeah, so we've seen him. I was watching him for a while. I think a couple does came out from another trail farther up, watching him through the thick stuff, trying to see if I could see him, and I'm looking and stuff, and then all of a sudden my dad's like, Nolan, right there. And I look up and he just massive on the walking down the trail straight in front of us where the 6 pointer walked out. I'm like, oh. So get the gun up on the stick. It's on the trail, and there's like a tree in front of me, and there's like another little tree to the left, and there's some gap between. And he was eating and walking stuff in bad angle. And then so he started walking towards my left, his right, to another trail. And like you don't want to just like let him go. So I shifted over a little bit in the tree stand, and I was watching him eat and stuff, um and then he starts like walking. He's good broadside just behind the tree. So I scooch over a little bit more, gets in the gap. I'm like, okay, Dad, I think I can shoot him. He's like, he can't see because he has stuff in his way or whatever. He's like, well, if you think you got a good shot, go ahead and take it. So line it up. I think it's good. He's broadside. Boom, I shoot. And he like does the mule kick, but then he's like standing there. So my dad's like, give another shell and like go. We don't want to run away, shoot him again. And then so I was like, well, I thought I smoked them. So then I eject the shell, and get another one in, try to go in. And he's like, oh, no, he's going down. And just kind of walked around in a circle, did a little tail wag, and then fell over. I'm like, oh, wow. I was just shaking. I could hardly speak. We called mom and grandparents and stuff and let them know, and I could just barely speak. And so then mom came down with the truck to get him, and we couldn't get him up and stuff. I'm like, oh boy, he was heavy. And then after a little bit, I went because I keep a shell collection for, I don't know, just because it's cool, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, so I keep a shell collection. So I go looking for a shell I ejected, and sure enough, I find it there. So find it, run back, whatever, and then since we couldn't get it, my dad just got a tractor. So he goes up to the house, grabs a tractor. Me and mom I think me and mom are down by the truck, whatever. And so we get it there. He just kind of scoops it up in the tractor. What's it called? The bucket. Yeah, the bucket. And he scoops it up there. He's driving. The grandparents show up, and we're talking stuff. whatever, taking pictures. I think we weighed it, live weight. And then so we're going to gut it down the driveway in dark. I'm in Grandpa's truck behind. Dad's got the tractor and he's driving down there and he just drive on the drive or whatever and hears just a big crack and we didn't hear it, we were in the truck. But and so yeah, we get there, he's like, nah, I'm sorry, Nolan. And he shows me which at that point I didn't know, but it was the biggest tine on the deer, the G2. I think it was like 11 inches, something like that.
Sounds about right.
And yeah, and I'm like, oh, that's okay, like whatever. Taxidermists do their stuff on it or whatever. And so, yep, guts it, whatever. And then we bring it back up to the house, and then we weigh it. I think it weighed what, 190 maybe, right? That
I
sounds
think so.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically it. And it was just a super cool hunt. Like it was really good.
Yeah. So Dad had just got that tractor for himself probably a couple weeks earlier, and he just couldn't see in the headlights of the bucket, so he tried shifting
Yeah.
it around and shifted a little too low, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You got it all fixed and mounted up now, and it's in your room. And
Yep.
so, how big was this buck? How big was it compared to your previous deer? Because you mentioned
Uh,
earlier that you've shot some decent sized bucks. You said you shot one bigger than a 6 pointer. So how big was this buck compared to your other deer?
yeah. So my first buck was the smaller 6 pointer, and then the next year after that, I shot a pretty good 8 pointer, missing your brow time, and so this one was a 10 pointer, and the 8 pointer scored 119 and 7/8. I'm pretty sure. And then I thought that was big, but we don't think we did my 6 pointer just because. And so this one scored, take a guess if you want. This one scored 144 and 6/8 gross, and it netted 140 and 5/8.
Yeah, it was a pretty perfectly symmetrical almost. I mean, really nice
It
rack
had
to it, very unique. It's got you'll
a
see in
hole.
some of the pictures that we'll put on the screen, but it has a little hole in the side of its antler, and yeah, it's got a little character because of the broken beam, but taxidermist put that back on and it looks brand new, wouldn't you say?
Yep.
So now he's got it shoulder mounted, hanging in your room, and it's a pretty solid buck for a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
So we'll move off of that story for a little bit. Um, that was the start of the 2024 hunting season, youth season, off to a bang, literally. Unfortunately, I was at college during that time with some of my baseball teammates, so I could not come home and help track. So I was unfortunately not there for your biggest buck. And as you'll probably hear Nolan say throughout the course of the podcast, it's a bigger deer than I've ever shot. So unfortunately, I couldn't be there for that. But I was there for this next uh, hunt that we can go over. Nolan shot his first ever buck with his bow. You've got a Matthews Raddick or Mission Raddick, is that correct?
Yeah. Raddick. Yep.
So he's got a
Lefty
not yep,
Raddick.
lefty Mission Raddick.
Yep.
Um yeah, so essentially Dad's been doing a lot of work with that tractor, planting food plots and getting the uh fields right next to home ready for this deer season, and it paid off twice for Nolan. He shot that one nice one right out in the turnips and alfalfa clover type deal. And then this next hunt was me and Nolan on a Sunday night. I had came home from college and we both brought our bows out to a ground blind because it was a miserable,
It
windy,
was
rainy.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Down
I'll put in
like
a couple
7
clips. I'll put in a couple clips from our sit that I have on my phone, but it was a very gross day, and forecast had said that it was supposed to lighten up about an hour before dark, so that was kind of what we were hoping for. We were, hoping for that break that the deer would come out and feed because it had been raining for almost, I think at that
So
point it was 12 hours straight, so the deer needed to get up and move. And so yeah, we both brought bows. If it was going to be a big deer, I was going to take the shot with my,
I saw it first.
what's that?
If I saw it, I would shoot it. But if you saw it, then you could shoot it.
Yeah, and if it was a little buck, I wasn't going to shoot it, but if it was a big buck, I would have shot it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had my brand new Matthews V3X. Nolan had his Mission Radic, and Nolan had just got a brand new Tidewee see-through ground blind that we had put up
Mm-hmm.
and brushed it in some old box elders, and it was right out in front of the break between our soybean patch and our green patch that had some brassicas and turnips and clover in it. And we were sitting there just kind of talking. I mean, we were talking in a pretty
Yeah.
normal voice. And then all of a sudden we had these little doe fawn and a little buck fawn, nub buck pop out at,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
probably three
actually,
yards.
let me add something to that. Yeah, we were just talking. I don't know. I think he was playing bike race on his phone, and we were like switching off turns because it was just yuck out. And I don't know how, but apparently it's a good deer call because whenever we play it, deer comes. So we're like, okay. And yeah, we were playing, and I think I had some candy or whatever with too. But we were playing, and he had just got sent a video of watching a deer, and all of a sudden these deer just come sprinting past like 10 feet from us, and then yeah,
Yeah, we had those two little deer pop out probably an hour and a half before dark. Um,
hmm
and they just fed right out in front of us for probably 20 minutes straight. Yeah,
yeah,
within 10, 15 yards, easy bow range. It was still raining at that point, and Nolan wanted to have his first deer that he shot with his bow be an antlered buck, not a nub buck. So we were waiting and waiting, and eventually I started to notice that the nub buck was getting real uneasy, um, and kind of standoffish. He was looking up towards our driveway, towards the neighbors, where it's very common for deer to come off our neighbors to come into our food plot at night. And I peeked out of that blind window because it was kind of hard to see through with the rain. Peeked
yeah,
out of
and
that
you didn't
blind
want.
window. Yeah, and I didn't want to be moving too much. And all of a sudden, I see this deer pop out probably 80 yards away into the soybeans, and I put my
Mhm.
binoculars up and saw this really nice chocolate racked little buck, and I was like, "Hey, Nolan, here you go. Hopefully this will work out. I mean, we've got live decoys, right out in front of us at 10 yards. We also had a decoy out. We had a doe decoy out. So there was three deer out in the field in front of us, the two little ones in the decoy. And we're like, all right, this is possibly going to happen. So Nolan gets his bow ready. He clips on, and I was just kind of talking him through, the timeline when he should draw, how close. I had my rangefinder, so I was able to give him accurate ranges on how close that deer was coming, and I was
Mhm.
asking him how comfortable he felt shooting. I believe you said 20 yards was your farthest you would shoot.
20 yards is probably the farthest if I had to. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was we were gonna try and get him much closer. Um,
Mhm.
and our decoy was set at about 10 yards, I believe.
Yeah.
So this little buck just kind of made a beeline straight across diagonally this soybean field right towards us. And yeah, he got to about 25 yards, and I got Nolan to draw.
Yeah. And yeah, I drew and just watching he just slowly was coming and it was going towards the doe. And I was drawn, just kept slowly inching his way forward. Wyatt was informing me on the yardage. And he was just slowly walking. and he was just getting closer and closer to the doe. Eventually, he got to like 12 yards. It looked like he was about to go chasing the doe, and my arm was burning. If I didn't shoot within probably 5-10 seconds, I probably would have had to let go because my arm was like and yeah. So Wacko's, I think he did Matt right.
Yep, I did a little grunt to stop him from walking forward, and I said, "Yeah, okay, Nolan, there you go."
Yep. And yep. Then I pulled the trigger. Well, release the thing. Yeah. And then yeah, I watched him. I was like, I thought it was a good shot. And so he ran off. We could see him standing in the tall grass for like 10 minutes, probably 20.
Yeah, so from my angle, sitting in the blind right over Nolan's shoulder, it looked like it was a pretty good shot, maybe a little bit low. But from my angle, it looked like it should have clipped some lungs and went back into the liver and the rest of the vitals. And so yeah, it ran off, and um, it had started to clear up, raining.
Yep.
As Nolan shot, but then as this deer ran off and stood there for a while, the rain started to come back down, which was not what was forecasted.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, this deer walks off, and so we give it the night, and I had to drive back. Like I said, it was a Sunday night, so I drove back to college, and Dad and Nolan
Let
and
me look.
go ahead.
Um. Okay. So we had called Mom and we were like, "Do you see the deer staying out there?" And she's like, "Yeah." When we're like, "Watch it with your life on the line." And so she's watching it, and eventually it just goes away and to the neighbors. And so we're like, and I was like, "Whoa, yeah, that deer, I had shot it." And she's like, "What?" And yeah, and then so yeah, he had to go back to college, and then you can think you can take it from there.
Yeah, we they let it go for the night, and then Dad, Nolan, Grandpa M, and one of our good family friends, Tim Hahn, came out, and they tracked the deer the next morning and were able to find it. And Nolan was actually at school when they
I
recovered
tracked it
it.
so I could help that morning. I tracked it or tried tracking it with ice and which a dog and stuff, and couldn't find it. Walked everywhere, just could not. And I was like, well, I don't want to be late for school and miss stuff. And so, a couple dad's friends came over, and Grandpa, I went to school. He got back, and then yeah,
Yeah, they found the deer and were able to gut it and take care of it, and actually brought it to school on the back of Dad's truck. And Nolan got a picture of it on at lunch break. Came out from his lunch and hopped in the bed Dad's truck. We'll flash that picture up here. And so yeah, it was a cool. The shot ended up being a little bit farther back and lower than we thought it was, but it was, I think it clipped the back of the lungs, um,
yeah.
got liver and then stomach. And so it was a fatal shot. He just needed some time, and he didn't go more than probably 200, 250 yards, basically just straight through a field to where he ended up dying. So no, it was a good deal. I mean, great first shot for a 12-year-old with a vertical bow, and pretty good composure before the shot went down. I mean, you had some nerves after, but for
Hmm.
being a 12-year-old and taking that kind of shot was pretty good.
Yep.
So I think one of the final topics we're going to go over today, um, in good detail, will be my bow buck that I was able to get. There is one other hunt that I want to touch on quick. We won't go into too much detail, but Nolan had himself a pretty good season, and he topped off those two bucks with shooting a doe during the gun season.
Hmm.
Me and Nolan went out on believe it was Wednesday of gun season.
Yeah, yeah,
Wednesday or Thursday.
it was Wednesday. Yeah.
Wednesday afternoon of gun season, we got down to our lease down in Crawford County, and yeah, Nolan made a great shot on a very big mature doe. We'll flash up the picture here, and we'll actually put up the shot. I was able to film a little bit of the gunshot from my phone.
Yeah, we had been watching the deer out there. There's a whole bunch of them. The ones that were closest thought I had a good shot. Put it on her. Boom. Ran off. I thought it looked good. It was my farthest shot. So I was like, well, hopefully, but like, I don't know. Like, did I miss it? You know, the nerves and stuff. And you were like, well, you're good. You're good. I'm pretty sure it was a good shot. Yep.
And when he says his farthest shot, it was only 120 yards. It
Yeah.
wasn't a very far shot in terms of what a rifle can make. Um, so yeah, then the other story we'll go over quick is my bow buck that I was able to shoot just before gun season. It was the Saturday before gun season. We were at our lease down in Crawford County. Nolan and I had gone out bow hunting in that same ground blind back home on Friday night, and we saw one little 8 pointer and a couple does. Nothing came in range, nothing that I really wanted to shoot, so I packed up my car and drove by myself the 3 hours or so down to our lease, and Dad and my uncle and my grandpa were down there at our family property, and um, I feel like most hunting camps do. There's usually the nightly buzz of where people want to go the next morning. Um, that's maybe for some people just an opening day thing, but for a lot of times when we're down there with family, we spend quite a few hours talking about where we should go and what the wind's doing. So this was, no different. I got down there on Friday night, and me and Dad basically had a coin flip of where we wanted to go. He was going to go to one spot, I was going to go to the other spot, and it was who wanted to go where. And Dad picked the spot for me. He's like, go here. It was as much of a hunting trip as it was also going to be a scouting mission because the tree stand that I was going to go sit in with my bow that day was a stand that nobody had sat in yet that year, and we just wanted to make sure that it was safe and an effective spot for gun season potentially because there had been a lot of buck activity on that part of the farm. So I knew I had a long walk that morning, long walk up a ridge. So I packed a lot of my clothes into my backpack, um, opened the vents on my pants so that I could not sweat as much as I was going to be packing in for an all day sit. I had a bunch of food, drink for the day. And it was a cold, windy day. And like I said, I had a long walk to go, and it was going to be as much a scouting mission as it was a hunt. So I didn't necessarily get the super early start like I normally would. Um, and I just took my time, slowly going up that ridge, down one of an old four-wheeler trail that we had. And right as I got to the top of the ridge where the tree stand was that I wanted to hunt was when it broke daylight and, shooting hours. And just walking down the four-wheeler trail, and I heard a deer get up out of its bed, kind of crunch a couple leaves. Obviously, this was mid-November, so leaves were all down, and that's why I was taking it real quiet. And this deer got up out of its bed, started walking around on the ridge, and I kind of wanted to mask my noise a little bit, so I had planned ahead and I had put my grunt tube in my front pocket of my bibs so I could have easy access to it. And I pulled on my grunt tube and gave a couple grunts, kind of soft, kind of really light, just to not scare the deer, trying not even to call it ear in, just to mask my noise. And I paused and listened, and up the ridge from me, around the bend of the four-wheeler trail, I heard some grunts and some scrapings and, twigs breaking, leaves, and all that. And so I just got up against the nearest tree on the edge of that four-wheeler trail and just kneeled down and popped a arrow out of my quiver because I could not see more than 10 yards in front of me with this ridge top. So I just got ready. And this buck popped up 10, 15 yards in front of me and was raking its antlers through some brush. And so I pulled my bow back and I still couldn't really see its rack because it was in the brush. And so it popped out around that four-wheeler trail at 8 yards from me. You know, Actually, it was actually at a higher elevation than me, so it was looking down on me. And I peeked my head around my bow because I wanted to make sure that it was a buck and that it was a decent buck to shoot. And I saw that had at least four on one side and, had a second side. And I was looking for an 8 point or better. I wasn't looking for one of the monsters we had on the property, but any nice buck would do. And thought this was going to be a nice buck. So I settled on its shoulder and shot and heard a pop right away. The good pop that you get when you hit the vitals there. And it went charging down the hill. And I was pretty, shaken up. I was so surprised that it happened that quick. And I actually went and just kept walking up that ridge and sat in that tree stand for a couple hours, probably 2 hours since I shot it. I was able to get a hold of my dad. He said he was going to come and help retrieve it if I wanted him to. So our plan then was I was going to get down and do some initial blood following. I could not find my arrow at the site of impact, so I kind of side hilled the terrain that we were going on, scanning the hill above me, just looking for the body, essentially trying to be quiet. And it took me about 15 minutes to get where I wanted to be, but eventually was able to look up and see the white belly of this deer laying on the side of the hill. So that was awesome, a big relief. I walked up to it and it was a nice young 8 point buck. And so I was able to then walk up the ridge, get cell reception, and call dad, call mom, call home, talk to everybody. And dad came out and we helped drag it out, got some pictures. And yeah, overall it was great. We got some cool pictures with the family down there. And you know one of my favorite hunts so far, just how close it was off the ground. And I think that's something that a lot of deer hunters maybe don't experience when they're just sitting up in the tree stand. And so being able to experience that at eye level was pretty crazy. And the one cool thing looking back on it, when I came to show dad where I shot it, was we actually found my arrow lodged about 6 feet up a tree, about 10 yards past where I shot it. So my arrow, with as much weight as I'm drawing off that bow, and the V3X was putting a lot of torque behind that arrow, and it blew right through that deer, clean pass through, and actually shot an extra 10, 15 yards through the trees, through the brush, and was lodged broadhead deep into the tree. So we'll flash some of those pictures up, but I thought that was a pretty cool hunt to experience with my family, and it was a good season for me as I had been in a little bit of a slump with the bow years prior to that.
Yep, I'd agree that was a pretty good hunt.
Yeah, so I think we're getting close to time here. Nolan, is there anything else that you
Um,
want to add? Anything that we can expect to see from you in the future? Anything that you want to be put on this channel coming forward? Give the viewers some insight into what's going to be coming.
well, for this next season, if I get the chance to shoot one, it's not like I'm not gonna be trying to shoot one as big as what I already did, because that's kind of hard. but I'll probably shoot. I'll probably shoot whatever looks decent to me, I guess, or if it's cool or whatever, It's like, yeah, it's just if it looks cool, cool. Like it's like I'm not like trophy hunting right now. It's not like I've shot huge bucks. I mean, I shot a huge buck, but it's not like I've shot so many where it's like they're all mounted everywhere.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you're gonna be putting out before that? Are you gonna have a maple syrup video maybe? Are we gonna have a couple
Yeah,
fishing videos, maybe some
yeah,
bass trips over the summertime, some musky trips, something like that?
yep. And maybe turkey
Turkey, it's a good idea.
recap. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that will be it for the podcast today for this episode. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yep.